In just the last 4 months, I guess, we have one and all become so much more comfortable with the concept of video conferencing and the quality and the frequency and the ease of use and the comfort level that we all have now with video conferencing as a result of just being forced to use it so often in so many different situations. Is pretty startling. It's really grown up, and the creators of the products, the Zooms and the Microsofts and the Googles who have delivered more and more functionality to us, they've been just heroic in trying to roll out new features and also just keep us online. And when you think about how much bandwidth has been used up, when you think about how many video conferences are going on, the incredible spike in traffic that video conferencing has had, and the relatively small number of problems and issues that we've had, it's really been a turbocharging of the technology. I guess I would say, what is it? War advances technology decades ahead as people are as the necessity of the moment drives the engineers and the developers to develop more efficient tools for their purpose. That's pretty much been the case for the last 4 or 5 months now with the whole video conferencing space. So today, I just want to take a look at some of the things that have captured my imagination and some of the places that we're using video conferencing more, and just open your eyes to some of the different options. A lot of what we're going to look at today is not really work related. It's not right down to the work, but is kind of enjoying the use video conferencing and making it a little bit more flexible. But the first thing I want to talk about is the ubiquitous nature of video conferencing. If you think about how you use it, I don't know how many of you have migrated to a single platform, but the platform developers have given us a variety of ways to bring video conferencing into the toolkit wherever we happen to be using the toolkit. So for example, if you are a Gmail user, you have now had this rolled out to you in all, pretty much, I think everybody has it now, where you can just start a meeting directly within your Gmail window, and it launches a Google Meet meeting. It has never been easier. That was always been one of the biggest issues that I had with the whole Hangouts world. Is Hangouts was always difficult to use. It was always difficult to find, to get started, for people to know where to go. It's now built right in to the Gmail menu as well. It is built in. Anytime that you create a calendar now, anytime you create a calendar entry and you invite people into a meeting, and you start and you create a new calendar and you create a new meeting or a new agenda item, right there you can add Google Meet video conferencing to that. So making the meetings available wherever you are, that is, I think, one of the big steps forward. Just makes it more accessible. It becomes second nature that you have a meeting in whatever tool you're using. And if you don't use Google Meet, if you want to use Zoom and you are using any calendar app, Zoom now has a series of different plugins that plug right into different browsers. For example, right here, if you take a look at my browser here, I can add and schedule a meeting right from within my browser window that will schedule a Zoom meeting for Google Calendar, send out the invitations, etc. So you've got lots of ways to incorporate and to bring people into meetings. That's just kind of on the surface and app level. But when you're using other tools, for example, when we use, let me just drag in here, when we use Slack, anytime I'm in Slack, if I want to have a meeting, I can just hit a little quick keyboard shortcut within Slack. I just go /Zoom, and it launches a Zoom meeting for us automatically right there in our Slack channel, which allows my team then to jump on to a Slack meeting at any point should we need to do that. And we use that. We probably use that 3 or 4 times a day, where we are in a Slack conversations going back and forth. And I say, you know what, it's going to be quicker if we just have a quick conversation. I drop that, I just go /Zoom. It launches a meeting. I open it up. April or Liz or both jump into the meeting. We have a quick conversation and we're out. It's like somebody poking your head into the office. Video conferencing, it's not something that we schedule. It's ad hoc. It's in all of these places that make it accessible this way. That's the ad hoc nature of the instant video meeting, where you have an instant call and you're in and out, and it's not a planned or scheduled event. It's just in and out. That, to me, is one of the biggest changes that we have seen in the entire video conferencing space. Now, some new features have been added to some of our favorite tools, such as Zoom. Zoom has added some new tools, which are worth taking a look at. The first is the inclusion of live captions. That was one of the real star features of Google Meet. The things that it did that Zoom couldn't do is Google had the ability to do live captioning right within Google Meet, which some people find a little bit they're uneasy with Google having that text to search as well as all of the other information that they get from us. But that cow has left the barn long ago. So if you find that an invasion of privacy, it's merely another step in the path that Google has been taking. But from a functionality point of view, it was very cool, especially in noisy environments and in some other environments, to be able to see the closed captioning coming to add some clarity and to different conferences. But it was unavailable in Zoom. And Zoom hasn't incorporated it because Zoom doesn't have that voice recognition technology built in itself. But instead, third parties have come and brought that functionality to Zoom. Now, it's not free as it is in Google, but Rev, which is one of our favorite tools for doing closed captioning on our YouTube videos, they have an automated process, a computer-based generator that will generate the captions. And a kind of a cool relationship happens. What happens? It's not the most elegant integration as you first set it up, because what has to happen is you set up Zoom is you use the same features in Zoom that we use to use Zoom for live broadcast. So that's called an RTMP connection, where the Zoom feed is sent out over the internet. The live streaming feed is sent out over the internet to Facebook Live or to YouTube Live. That's how we take a Zoom call and we broadcast it into another live stream. What happens is Rev has set up a destination, which is a capture room, which then takes the feed from you, converts it into text, listens to what's said, and converts it into text, does a transcription of it, and then fires it back to Zoom. And then they've got a gateway back into Zoom so that then it gets displayed in your actual Zoom feed as you're going. It's quite an elaborate process. And here's how it looks. I'll show you how it looks. Now, let me show you those tools in Zoom itself. So I've got the Zoom meeting here set up. So I don't have April on this call. It's just me and you now. But down here in the bottom, so I can show you the screens, because the Zoom capture screen doesn't show you the interface. Here is the tools that we're talking about as far as managing the is turning on and off your closed captioning. And you can see that if I go here into the subtitle settings, I can adjust the size of the subtitles here in this, and you see them appearing down below. And there's going to be a slight lag as they go back and forth, but the Zoom, all of the text is going to appear here. And if I click here again on this little caret, I can view the full transcript here as we're going along. So this is the transcript, which you can later save, so you have a copy of the transcript. And so all of that is set up and enabled right here within this window. So that's the kind of the user controls. Now, the person who hosts the meeting, the license is $20 a month for one person, for one host. And this is where you decide whether or not you're going to be using the service or not. And it's so the kind of the management tools for the administrator are here, and everybody has options down at the bottom for either invoking and using or not using the closed captioning within their feed. So that's a nice solution where Zoom has caught up, although at a cost. You gain more privacy with Zoom because Google isn't tracking everything that you're saying and using it for whatever Google uses it for, but you're paying $20 a month to have the closed captioning included. So that's the closed captioning story, at least relating to Zoom. Now, this next feature I'm going to share with you is all about fun. There's very little practical business. Well, there is. I guess there's some practical business application and some quality of content delivery application, but this is mostly fun. So we're going to talk about video. Typically speaking, when you set up any video conference, you have whatever resources you have on your computer available as sources. So I've got the Logitech Brio, which is right here, which I've been using as my main video camera for quite some time for all of the webinars that we deliver, etc. And if I have other webcams set up on my computer, Zoom will allow me to select different cameras. And the quickest way to do that, you can do that through the video preferences, but the quickest way to do that is to just click here on the little caret, which allows me to select my different cameras. Now I've got on my cinema display, on my Apple Cinema display, I have an iSight camera, which looks like crap. And then I've got a couple of virtual cameras installed on my computer as well, which is the thing that we're going to talk about now, because it's new now that we can use virtual cameras in Zoom. So what is a virtual camera? A virtual camera is a application that creates a video stream, and it shows that it mimics your webcam to a streaming service like Zoom or like Microsoft's meeting service or Google Meet. It mimics the camera. So it fools it into thinking it's a webcam, and it takes that feed and displays it. And there's a couple of ways that we can use that are very cool. So first of all, the first thing we have to do is we have to create a virtual camera source. And on the Mac, for most of us, there's two sources that we use a lot. One of them is a silly thing that adds all sorts of funny faces and hats and stuff to us, which comes from the folks at Snapchat, and it adds those filters, the different filters, which I'll show you in a moment. So it can take, what it'll do is intercepts the feed from your webcam, and it adds these filters over top and then outputs that, and that combined output becomes your feed into Zoom. And I'll show you that in a moment, and that is just straight up fun. But you can also set up to use additional cameras that Zoom can't natively view. And specifically, I'm speaking about having a good DSLR. So take a look at my video here. So actually, I'm going to take you into a program called Ecamm Live, which we use often for all of our live streaming for all of our live streaming services that we do here. So this is our Ecamm Live setup right here, and you can see I've got the Logitech Brio. It's running through the Logitech Brio right now. Actually, let me just make sure that it is. There it is. That's the Logitech Brio without any filtering. It's coming straight through, so you see the quality of the feed. But I can set up Ecamm to plug in my DSLR, and I've got a Canon M50 just above my camera. And here, I'll take a picture, and I will show you the picture. I will drop in the picture so that you can see the picture of what my setup here looks like. So what you see here is my Brio camera, and above that is my M50, which is plugged in by USB to my Mac. Now here's where it gets fun. Ecamm can accept the feed from my M50, and let's just go to that. And this is a much higher quality feed. This is a very high definition feed, and I've got an 11 millimeter lens on, which has a tremendous bokeh, or the background gets much more faded. I've got that nice fading, and you see how crisp and clear the face is. I mean, I should have done makeup. So I'm going to have to start doing makeup if we do this, but it's a step up from our typical quality that we get from our webcam. But now let's go back to Zoom, and let's take a look at those options that we had again. So I'm here in Zoom, and let's go here, and just remember down here, we have the option to choose our different filters. And I'm going to choose the Ecamm Live filter or the Ecamm Live feed webcam. And now into my Zoom meeting comes this high definition, high quality feed coming from the DSLR and no longer coming from the webcam. So that virtual camera option is tremendous. Now, downside, there's a slight delay, as I explained to April. You can see, just see the cam. So now I've gone from my webcam to my DSLR, but Zoom won't support the DSLR directly. So the fact that I've got the webcam installed in Ecamm means that I can use it. Now, there is a slight the sync because it's processing it. It's not quite perfect, but I look amazing. Why not?
You do look amazing, but I have to tell you, it's one of those things where, I don't know, sometimes people choose to watch people's mouths, and you sit there and it's like this annoying.
You start to hyper-focus on it.
Once you pick up on it, you're like, oh, stop.
Well, this will solve you from looking at my mouth. Is we can switch over to using the SnapCam, which is another virtual camera, and we can I can put cow tattoos on my face. Where's the one that I like? How's that? Is that a good look for me?
That is a good look for you.
Now, let's go back to our Logitech Brio. And there we go. We're back in here now. Now, the other virtual camera that we have installed, and there's a variety of these out available to you on the web, but the other one that I have installed is the SnapCam, which adds different filters. So this allows me, and if I open up my snap cam here, I'm going to open the snap camera. This is a kind of a selection of all of these different templates. These people have loaded, they're called lenses, but you can do a search for different type of lenses. So for example, I looked for a cow lens. I didn't find one that I really liked a lot. There was one that was a cow, that like full on cow, but you'll see. Let me show you. I'm going to choose this one here, and I'm going to start it playing. And so this now, you see what's happening here? This gets fed through, but it's only happening in SnapCam right now because I haven't selected the SnapCam camera as my feed. But here I'm going to select into the Zoom meeting. I'm going to select the virtual SnapCam. And now, as I say, this is not too useful, but I got to say, April enjoyed it. Good look for me. But you can search. Now this, what? Did you not notice this before?
It took me, it's just funny. Just funny.
I wish I could wiggle my ears.
I don't have my phone. I want to take, I can take a screenshot. I got to take a screenshot.
Okay, we take the screenshot. But with the snap cam, of course, you can add all these stupid filters. You're seeming to enjoy this more than you should.
Well,
now, of course, this can be disruptive in meetings, and a lot of people are using these things now to vote that meetings are boring, and they're trying to add a little bit of excitement in it. So you'll see little things. It's sort of disruptive, but it's fun. You have to be a little bit careful about when and where you choose.
I'm curious, why did you choose a pig? Why didn't you choose something?
Because I couldn't find the cow that I wanted. There's a cow one that I liked.
It's so funny.
There was a cow one that I really liked.
Can you see yourself with it on?
I can see myself. You have to use the snap camera is it's an add-on, so you have to kind of go to the camera and then you add it. That's just it. It's not really, it doesn't really make us better or faster, but it's it does reflect your face a little bit. The beard sticking out the bottom doesn't really help with this one.
Oh God.
Okay.
This is hysterical.
Well, this is now Webinar Wednesday.
I feel like I want to pet the top of your head. It's so
you
cute.
keep your hands away from the blue. Keep your hands away from the blue. And at this point here, is this a point that I should mention Patreon? Because we're bringing so much value into our community's life. Okay. Now, one thing you have to remember is this uses a lot of resources. This uses a fair bit of resources, and your whole computer is going to slow down. It's not going to be perfect. Everything's not going to be always perfectly in sync. And you're probably going to, if you're getting anything productive done, once you start playing with this, it's pretty much going to put paid to any actual productivity that you have going at that particular moment. But I can turn off the snap cam just like that, and then we're back to normal. So that's it. Now, that is some of the kind of the more fun aspects of the different tools that they've added. Certainly the captioning, incredibly useful. The ubiquitous nature now of being able to jump into meetings at a heartbeat, that's changed things a lot. And understanding how virtual cameras work, I think that's going to open your eyes to either improving the quality of your video dramatically or just interrupting really boring meetings really, really effectively. Let's get into the Q&A because I'm sure there's lots of stuff that I missed that ways that you're using meeting software more effectively that I'd love to hear from you now. And we're back. There we go. So that was fun. That was a you enjoyed that, didn't you?
Oh gosh, I totally did. I was wondering if you cut it out. I was like, did he cut out that scene? Because I just you
know what happened was when we recorded the demo, I had to scramble a little bit last night in editing it together, because when we recorded the demo, I thought that in the Zoom recording that the closed captioning would be in the recording, but it's not. It's a separate file. So I had to edit the video that we recorded to showcase the stuff, to kind of re-explain all of the stuff with the closed captioning. So that was it. So that's and there is a practical use to the to those virtual cameras. There's a ManyCam on the Windows computers, and eCam Live on the Mac. Means that the whole feed you can send through. So it's not just send the silly faces and stuff like that, or even just getting access to the high definition camera. But if you want to put lower thirds in, if you want to incorporate graphics, if you want to roll other things into a Zoom meeting where you're actually switching back and forth and doing higher production value stuff, you can do that using a virtual camera, with the understanding that there is some performance lag, that you're always going to have a little bit of a delay which may or may not be a deal breaker for you, but it does open up so many different options. For example, going from Ecamm Live into, if we were doing that into StreamYard right now here, into our live stream here, or into a Zoom meeting, I can use, I've got a tool here, which I'll hold up in front. I've got something called, this is called the Stream Deck. It's the Elgato Stream Deck, and that will allow me to switch sources. And so if I had preloaded videos or lower thirds or graphics or effects or different camera angles into Ecamm Live, I could be doing that switching right now here live while we're on camera. And so you've got those capabilities. So that's the so that's kind of the story of some of the features that are built in. So while I was in Blueface, I did mention that now would be a good time to thank all of our patrons. So a big thank you to all of the patrons. Once again, I'll remind you all that these tutorials are brought to you free every week for us from here on DottoTech. Normally, you don't see them here on YouTube. Normally, they are in our webinar package, in our webinar tool. But we do deliver these free each week, these training and tutorials. And the reason we're able to do that is the support we get from our community at Patreon, which we dearly love. There's over 800 of you now supporting us. And for $10 a month, you get to encourage us to remain on the air, delivering these sort of tutorials, and you get access to several different perks. And those perks include, it's going to be, oh, sorry, I don't know why people are calling me right now. They shouldn't be. There we go. So where was I? I what else is good? This
I think it's the topic.
It's 2020 in a nutshell. This entire live stream is 2020 in a nutshell.
Well, even like as you were describing yesterday when it didn't record the chat and
So
definitely.
Anyways, I was thanking our patrons. Oh, you get the perks you get include access to all of the webinar Wednesday replays, of which this is going to be a gem. So and we've got this is our 141st of these tutorial replays. All right. So. All right. I am going to roll back. Do you have something that you want me to do? I'm going to pick out as many.
Okay, you don't want me to read them to you? It's up to you.
No, I'll display them. I'll display them because I think so. When we were showcasing,
and then if you drop the Patreon link when you get a chance, because somebody was asking for it, please.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Sorry, I can't do it.
All right. All right. So here it is. So Deborah was asking, they want to know more about StreamYard sometime. We will. So StreamYard is the live streaming tool that we're using. There's a couple of other ones that compete with StreamYard, and there's a couple of different ways to get to a live stream. But I'll tell you, StreamYard came through like a champ today because we had like 6 minutes to prepare this and to get it on. And it's got, of all of the tools, it has the simplest user interface and the nicest kind of compressed feature set that allows us to do something like this very quickly. We're using it for a lot of our live streams, but the how well it performed under stress today, I think we will definitely book a feature on doing live streaming through StreamYard coming up very shortly. Now, when we're showing the closed captioning, and I was talking about how Google Meet has closed captioning built in, Hiker 1956 says, don't you give up a lot of privacy with Google tools? You do, which is the big question. And that's really where a tool like Rev's transcription engine being plugged into Zoom comes to fore. So if you're comfortable with using Zoom as your video conferencing tool, then using Rev for doing the transcriptions means that the text of your transcription only is within your own system. Rev doesn't maintain, doesn't share that information, and doesn't store it anywhere else. So you copy and you store your own transcriptions yourself. So you increase your privacy dramatically, but you have to pay for that, and it's $20. Is the basic account which you purchase, which gives you a month, and it gives you all of the closed captioning you're going to need for that month. I believe there's an hour limit on it, but it's a big limit. So and we are doing a video on it. Actually, we're just working with Rev on doing a video, and that's going to actually be a sponsored video. We've been working with them a little bit on it. So that's how that will all come together. So yes, Peggy, these features, I believe that you could use the closed captioning in the free version of Zoom. I don't think you would be closed off from doing that. I can't say 100%, but then you're limited to, what is it, a 45-minute session or so, if there's more than 2 people in the room or something like that. But most people at that point would already have the paid version of it. So there, that is that. All right. Jeff was asking, now when I showed the my DSLR being plugged in, this is one of the things that's really rapidly changed over the last year, is with the latest group of DSLRs that are coming out. Many of them are set up to stream as a USB source directly in without any capture card. Now, you have to look for a few things in your DSLR in order to do this, in order to make it work properly. One is your DSLR has to have something called a clean feed. Normally, with a lot of DSLRs, the older ones, if you're taking a feed from USB, it will include the camera information. You know, all that information you'll see in your viewfinder of your f-stops and your focus and your brightness and all of those sorts of, the date and timestamps, all of that stuff that gives you that information in the window, that can be included in the feed. You obviously don't want that if you're going to be using it for live streaming. So you have to have a DSLR that supports a live, a clean feed, which the Canon M50 is one. The new Sony Z something or other, their new one, a lot of the newer ones will support that clean feed. So you can plug that directly into a Mac for sure, and I'm pretty sure your PC as well, depending on what the capture software is. But you can plug it directly into the Mac, and then Ecamm sees it as a source. For some reason, Zoom will not see it as a source at this point here, but Ecamm will, and then Ecamm has the ability to use the feed from Ecamm as a virtual camera, which I showed you, which is what we walked through. And that is going to be something that we will actually, it's actually a scheduled video for us to do a whole detail on virtual cameras. So the cool thing is you don't need a capture stick if you have a newer camera. If you have an older camera, you're going to have to be still using a capture stick, and people like the Elgato has them, and several others have them as well. So,
how you doing?
I'm doing good. Simon Palea says, I've tried to use a virtual camera, an OBS plugin, and it's interesting. Too bad Camtasia 2020 doesn't see virtual cameras. It would be interesting combos. Good point. So what Simon's talking about is using that same virtual camera thing, but using it in screencasting software and capturing it directly as you're doing a screen recording, which is the way, say, we produce our videos on YouTube. So Sam, I'm not sure where Camtasia is on that, but usually they are kind of just going back and forth with the tools that are available in ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow in the latest version allows you to use a virtual camera. And so I have started to do some using this camera, using the DSLR for some of my ScreenFlow tutorials, but the lag is still there. So the sync is slightly off. So for some reason, the way that it's being recorded is it's not consistent. It doesn't start like an eighth of a second out and then remain. It actually gets worse. So you can't actually just shift the video. You can't decouple the video, make a slight adjustment, and then resync it, and everything is okay. It didn't work. For short videos, it was fine, but longer videos, it didn't. And that might be just a current version thing, a new version, but it was an issue. So here's what I'm doing now, is when I am recording a screencast, I do my normal screencast recording with the webcam, but I start a second recording, and in my case, I'm using Ecamm, but you could just use QuickTime, or you could use any other tool, and I have that will see the DSLR, and I have a parallel recording happening at the same time. You could also do that just by recording into the card and then moving it across and then just syncing the two up. But it gives you the opportunity to do that. It's a little bit of a kludge, but I think we're getting close. I bet you within a year, depending on the processing power of the computers, that we'll be able to, in Camtasia and in ScreenFlow, be able to record multiple cameras at the same time. Because the other thing ScreenFlow does now is I can record multiple screens at the same time. I've got two screens hooked up. I can record them, and so I've got separate feeds for the two different screens and for the camera. How big a leap is it for them to add another camera? Not a super big leap, so I think we will see that at some point. Sorry, he asked a question about something that I was really interested in, so that's why I went longer. And Ken is totally right.
We've got a lot of questions about StreamYard that I was just answering in the chat.
Okay. I'm scrolling down and looking for it. Bruce is asking if I've used ManyCam for lower thirds, filters, and other features. No, I'm not in Windows. I haven't used ManyCam, but many of my friends love it, and it's another option, and it does some of the same things as we showed with the the Snap Cam. Somebody was asking about Snap Cam. I think it's free. I can't remember if I paid for it.
I think it's free. No, it's free because Amanda Robinson brought it on our app. Remember? That was her app that she liked to share.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, there is a cow theme today. The cow left the barn. Yeah, I did that as well. It's true. I wonder if that was subtle. That was subtle. How do you get the Snap Cam? You can just go download it. And you got to be careful. There was a priest that had it on his phone. He had the Snap Cam installed on his phone. And anytime you start a story with there's a priest, you can be in trouble. But there was a priest saying mass. He was an Italian priest somewhere in Italy, and he had left the filter on his phone without recognizing that he had it. And he did an entire mass. I think it's a potato. I can't remember, or as Elvis with Elvis sideburns or something, where it was ridiculous. It was hilarious, but because he wasn't like monitoring his chat, he didn't know, and he did the whole mass as potato priest, I guess, which is. Being raised Catholic, that is absolutely hilarious.
Let's Go Cruising is saying, I am using ManyCam on my Mac, so you can use it on Mac as well.
Well, I should check it out then. I'll have it. I didn't realize it was cross-platform, but I'll have it a check out. Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. So, do
you see Doug's comment? What about Mevio camera, which has several shots? Have you ever heard of that?
No, I don't see that. What's it called? Say it again.
It's called Mevio camera, Mevio.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard of. Isn't that the virtual? Isn't that the one that has 360 degrees? I'm not positive. I've heard of it, but it doesn't ring a bell. I can't speak to it intelligently.
Got it.
So there is for Canon. There's a EOS webcam utility, an EOS webcam utility. I'll have to take a look at that. I haven't checked. So that'll allow you to use it. That's another virtual camera utility that you could then use instead of using eCam. Thanks, Charles. I'll check that out. That's a good one. Yeah,
he had a lot of great stuff in here.
Okay. Sounds like he knows it. Yeah. There's a whole world Like I belong to the eCam users group, a private Facebook group for their beta, and people are always doing some wild things with it. I will say this, that when you're using, at least I have experience, that when we're kind of on the leading edge of this. I don't think we're on the bleeding edge anymore, but we're on the leading edge, and things do break occasionally. Like, software will upgrade and then the camera won't work. So you have to be careful about relying on it too much as especially time sensitive things. Like I'm not using it today on the webinar. I should be. I should just fire it up to see what happens because it's all gone to hell in a handbasket anyways.
Let's see. I think you've actually answered a lot of the questions, and the chat's been great. People have been answering. Okay, so Kenny's saying Mevo or Mevo, one camera with multiple preset cropping.
Oh, okay. Yes. So it is. So it's a 360 degree camera. It's a very wide angle camera. And so if you're using it like doing a table session where you've got 2 or 3 people, with one camera, you can have multiple shots from the single camera and you frame out the camera. So it's like you're in editing software and you've cropped and you've moved them around and you've set up different shots. Yes, very cool. I haven't used it. I saw it at, I think I saw it at VidCon. I saw a demo of it, and so it is the tool that I'm thinking about. So it's a hardware and software solution. Yeah.
And there was questions about Logitech cameras, which people asked, and James was just saying that they are nowhere to be found, and estimate is 12 weeks to catch up. So
yeah, there was such a run on them. And there are other cameras that you can choose other than the Logitech. I can't speak to their quality, but yeah, and people were just gouging as much as they could for used webcams and all that sort of stuff. It was difficult, but the DSLR, if you've got a DSLR, it might be an option for you to use that. For it might be easier to get something like Elgato Cam Link and then hook if you've got an older DSLR, as long as you have the clean feed from it.
Jeffrey is saying, sounds like you need to do a DottoTech YouTube review episode about virtual cams, and then I'd pick the top 3 to 5.
Well, that's a lot of work, but yes, that would be. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. They use the camera for stage performances. They set up a wide shot and then close-ups with remote operation. So a single camera for recording.
Cool.
That's cool. That's cool. Hopefully they can do stage performances again very soon. I don't think it's going to be very soon, but in the not too distant future. Hey, we survived it. April, I don't think we should tempt fate. I think we should just call it a day.